when those entertainers came to town, they never left unless they made a pit stop at the Hampton House.
Jackie Robinson, Junior Gillum,
Nancy Wilson, of course.
Joe Louis,
Sonny Liston,
Dr. Martin Luther King,
James Brown,
Cassius Clay,
Sammy Davis Jr.
Frank Sinatra Jr. was
I
there.
remember Isaac Hayes.
Sarah Barnes.
Black stars lived at the Hampton House.
Miami, Florida, home of the Hampton House, a home away from home to thousands of visitors from states of the United States and many foreign lands who seek the fabulous Florida sunshine and potpourri of Gold Coast activities to be enjoyed.
I started going to the Hampton House from 1956 until it closed. Before the Hampton House, the name was the Booker Terrace. And when they did some remodeling, they decided that they wanted to have a new name. And so they had a contest asking the community to suggest new names. And that's why it was changed from the Booker Terrace to the Hampton House.
The Booker Terrace back in those days was what we as Black Americans had for our persons who were of notoriety as far as being entertainers.
Well, I started in '54, and until the doors closed, I was a patron. I said quite a bit. For Black Americans in Dade County, it was one of the finest places to go for entertainment, for dining, and for housing for people who couldn't afford otherwise.
I performed at the Hampton House in the years of 1957 and 58.
The years that I went to the Hampton House were around 1957, maybe through 59 and 60. Shortly after we moved in the Brownsville area, my husband and I would go there on Sunday nights. That was our outlet for the weekend. And it was such a beautiful place. We really, really enjoyed it.
It was a place that they could gather and, you know, not feel out of place.
a classic looking place. It was beautifully decorated, the interior and the outside.
I performed in the Hampton House in the 50s, the 60s, some of the 70s, and maybe a little up to whenever it closed. During that particular years, even though it may have been segregated, it still gave the black community class. And it was an opportunity that when you went to the Hampton House, you felt like you had arrived or you was somebody. You saw good positive images.
I performed at the Hampton House starting in 1965. And I was there until 1972 when it was closed down. The Hampton House really had a big effect on the community because it was like the mecca of the South.
I started performing at the Hampton House in the late 60s and the early part of the 70s.
Milton Smith was the promotion man for TK Productions. So Milton said, Timmy, I'm going to take you somewhere tonight because what nobody knew, Milton used to live at the apartments at the Hampton House. And he took me by, and lo and behold, I had an opportunity to see this lounge. This was the first time I had seen a black establishment.
I saw it as a very glamorous place. As a child, it was the only place that I was allowed to go to that was glamorous and where adults actually went to sip on tea.
If you didn't go there, you just miss out on part of your growing up, your inheritance.
I think the owners of it at that time was Mr. and Mrs. Markowitz, and they were very, very nice people.
It was not black owned. The family name was the Markowitz, which was a Jewish couple that owned it, but it was open for black Americans. It was in the black community, and it was a place, an elegant place, where black people could go, where they wanted to be dressed up and looking their best and on their best behavior and enjoying the finest in jazz and in food and in what was being offered.
There were many, many times when the people in the community would come and you couldn't get a seat in there.
The Hampton House was the joint. That's where we hooked up, and that was the term they used. Say, on the golf course, where you living? I'm at the Hampton House, huh? You know, say, where you living? I'm at the Hampton House.
I had a booth in the room, and I would do my show from the booth, of course, on WNDM radio. And boy, that was a pleasure. I used to get more phone calls from people saying, "Oh, play some B.B. King, play some of this, play some Ray Charles, or play some Billie Holiday, or Ella Fitzgerald."
All of the teachers would come, and anybody else who could beg, borrow, or steal to get here came. And so we all met there, and we just had a good time because you didn't have to worry about your community, and we met people that we knew, and we made new friends, and the Hampton House just was there.
Hampton House was a means of black people coming together to socialize, and you had not only the educated ones there, but you had a large majority of the blue collars as well as white collar blacks.
Matter of fact, we thought it was our duty to come to the Hampton House, and we did this every week.
It was for the black community a place of tremendous pride. The Hampton House was a place where everyone can point to their friends who would come to visit, a place of good repute. It was in a good location. It was centrally located in Dade County, and so meeting people got a chance to see it either on their way to the airport, on their way from the bus station, or however they got to Dade County, they could go by the Hampton House and see this place of tremendous pride for us in the Dade County area.
A visit to the dining room reveals a cozy, homey atmosphere where good food is the prime essential. The convenient coffee counter is open on an 18-hour basis from 7 in the morning until 1 past midnight. A very welcome and desirable service, especially when one is on vacation.
It had good food in the dining room, it had good music, and it must have had some good drinks behind the bar, because they were all over the place. And it had a pool out there, and it was just a nice place.
Not only for entertainment, but it was for a place to eat. And like I said, if you want to spend the weekend in a hotel, it was a beautiful place to spend the weekend at, too.
If not for the Hampton House, our entertainers would only have had 1 or 2 places to stay, which was Overtown. This gave them the ability to move around and live around our community.
Remember this very beautiful, lighted, well-adorned, beautiful building in pink that was always filled with cars that were nice cars, the nice Chevys, the nice Cadillacs, the Edsels, if you don't mind, the Lincolns, all of the nice cars that were parked in the parking lot. And people were very well dressed at the Hampton House.
And people were thriving, and our communities were beautiful because we supported each other, and the entertainment, just awesome.
Fabulous. It was real fabulous.
There is no need going outside for entertainment, not tonight or any other night for that matter, for right on the premises, things are truly jumping each evening with a well-rounded presentation of star acts from the world of stage, screen, radio, and television, offered in an atmosphere of good fellowship and contagious friendliness.
Some of all walks of life came through those doors, and they parted, and they parted hardy.
Had people from all over Miami, white people, black people, Asian people, all coming to the Hampton House. And of course, this was really during the time of segregation. So the Hampton House was like a bridge over the segregated world that we lived in, because you would see people from all races enjoying the great jazz at the Hampton House.
Where whites would patronize the hotels on Miami Beach, blacks would patronize the Hampton House. That is what we had. And every black American looked forward to seeing our black entertainers come over to the Brown Sub areas. This, you call it Brownsville now, but this was Brown Sub. To see them come over, they would line the streets and the sidewalks just to see our black entertainers, Sammy Davis Jr. and the rest of them, come over to the Booker Terrace / Hampton House.
A lot of those people were performing on the beach would come, and they would stay at the Hampton House during that time, because at the time they wasn't allowed to stay on the Miami Beach. So they would stay at the Hampton House, which was one of the top hotels in the black community at the time.
Well, I was in civil rights, and when you work for the county like I did, you have many, many community activities. When we were active, I went to Miami Beach to talk to hotel owners about employing Negroes, and this was before they were renting them rooms, you know?
When we played on the beach, we had to live on this side of town.
Most of the nationally and internationally known entertainers who were black couldn't live on the premises at the Miami Beach hotels where they were working, and they would live in the Hampton House and sort of congregate there.
So I had a lot of entertainers that come, when they'd get off, would come over to the Hampton
House. But before they would go to bed, they would come down in the lounge and socialize and mingle with their own people.
After 2 o'clock, when all the musicians, the black musicians from the hotels on the beach, they would come over and they'd let their hair down. Sarah Vaughan, a great singer, she came by the Hampton House one night, and they wanted her to sing, but she could not sing because she's under contract.
It had a good name because when those entertainers came to town, they never left unless they made a pit stop at the Hampton House. And guys would be right there waiting to say, who's in town? Eckstein? Yeah, well, you know he's going to be at the Hampton House.
You had even Duke Ellington, when he was bringing his band in, the musicians would come over and sit there and play with us.
Some of the famous people that I can remember that used to just come in the Hampton House at any time were people like Cassius Clay, which is AKA Muhammad Ali. He would just walk in, and I mean, the place would just it would just applaud him.
Can you name this Wimbledon and world champion tennis player? In this threesome is a recent world champion boxer, Jimmy Perret. And this attractive lady, pictured with her young son, is the wife of one of our greatest baseball stars. And this broad-shouldered gentleman, a recent selection to baseball's Hall of Fame, is the athlete in question. You young twisters and rock and rollers will no doubt spot young and exciting Jackie Wilson. There's always a big draw name emceeing a fast-moving revue that guarantees an evening of
The
fun.
place was packed with people, so it's well loved.
Just have a ball, just have a wonderful time. It was just a great gathering for us.
I was in my glory because I led the band, who was a very, very popular band, and I had very, very popular musicians that was working with me. And my memory there is I couldn't wait to get to work each night because it was such fun, such a good time there.
When it comes to the entertainment at the Hampton House, I thought it was always top-notch because of this reason. When persons like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and those other top bands, you know, Nat Cole and a lot of other blues singers, when they came to town, the Hampton House was the forum for them to pick up some of the professional entertainers that joined the band and left with them.
Oh, during that days, you had to be the best. There was no doubt. During the days of segregation, you had to be 3 times better. So the entertainment was superb. It was really perfected. And I think that motivated me to become a very perfect or perfective trumpet player and keyboardist.
In the band that I played in, I was an alto player. And I played alto. I was the only alto player that we had. It was 5 of us in our group. It was me, a fellow named Sam Harrison, who was the leader. He played tenor.
I played the piano with the band. Was actually invited by a man by the name of Richard Strawn, who was good friends with Charlie Austin and Billy Roll. And I was a youngster coming along in the North Dade area, and they felt I had talent, and so they exposed me to nightclub life at the Hampton House.
It was really fun playing that too. Once you got there with your horn, I'm a sax player, sax, clarinet, and flute player. You were ready to really get into it. You know, you were going swabba dooba dooba, swabba dooba doo
da 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 da. And people were coming to hear Dick Strawn and the 3+2 band. And I was amazed when they would be there before we got started.
The Hampton House was one of the clubs I was always booked in, and it helped pay my way through college. I used to just love to see the Rocketeers on stage, Billy Roll and his band, Richard Strawn and his band, Timmy Thomas even performed there. A lot of us got our start there, and that's important that these youngsters know today that they're standing on the shoulders of some great Miamians and some great entertainers of the past.
The glad hand of fellowship is readily extended, and it's truly amazing the leaders in education, religion, and the professional and sports world whom you're likely to meet during your sojourn at this happy place.
I met Dr. King there. Matter of fact, I think he wrote one of the speeches at the Hampton House while he was there.
So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom.
The Congress of Racial Equality had its regular meetings at the Hampton House. Dr. Martin Luther King used to frequent the Hampton House. In fact, he had a special room whenever he stayed there. That room, there's a room on the 2nd floor on the north side of the building where he used to live. And I saw a video of his being at the Hampton House. And he was telling people that the Miami community needed to take into consideration the fact that a lot of immigrants were coming to this community, and to make sure that the black people and the immigrants were not fighting over menial jobs, and that opportunities would be available for all of its citizens. And, you know, he said that back in the 50s. And this is a problem that we're having today. So he was futuristic in looking at the community.
Dr. King made his speech at the Hampton House before he ever made it in Washington, D.C. Standing right next to me, I'm sitting down at a long head table. And he's standing right next to me, and sometimes he would put one hand on my shoulder, and I think I slipped out the chair and fell on the floor when he wound up, you know what I mean? That was the most outstanding speech I think I've ever heard in my life.
Contestants arriving for the Orange Blossom North and South Golf Tournament are made welcome.
And they even had the North-South tournament. That was the golf tournament, and they would come down, and sometimes we would stay there all night, performing. Woke out the next morning. It was 7 o'clock the next morning.
The tournament draws top colored stars from throughout the nation, performers such as Pete Brown and the '61 champion Liz Wright, and a host of others, including a 3-time winner of the Miami North-South tournament, Myrtle Patterson.
And the golf course opened up at 7 o'clock, and from daylight to dusk dawn. And when you left there, all roads led to the Hampton House.
The baseball players' annual golfing get-together is staged also at nearby Miami Springs, offering fans an autograph bonanza as their heroes are in touching distance and glad to oblige.
Baseball players that came to town, that was their stop. Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, Larry Doby.
We had several special occasions because the girlfriend group, as we call ourselves, would have birthday parties. We'd find some big event in our group that we could celebrate, you know, that happened to one of us.
I gave myself my 29th birthday party at the Booker Terrace. I spent $30, that was the tab, for me setting up everybody for my 29th birthday party at the Booker Terrace.
New York, Boston, Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, Los Angeles, all are nearer to Hampton House than you think. Miami's terrific international airport is only 5 minutes away by the great new expressway.
Integration played a big part in almost everything around here.
I know integration affected what happened at the Hampton House.
When they said you can now go to the beach, I guess people started going, and things just fell apart.
When it opened up, integration is just like it took away from what we had established, what we had going as a people.
This morning we drove over to fabulous Miami Beach with some friends, and among other things enjoyed a ride on one of the Lincoln Mall tram cars. An ideal way to see this magnificent promenade.
Integration helped in one sense. We got to go to the areas where we wanted to go. We got what we wanted, but we lost what we had.
The changes came in when the Metro Rail station pulled in along 27th Avenue. And as you know, the community just changed.
Where people live, they had to make space for the Metro Rail. So I do think that did have some effect.
It was a sense of not so much pride anymore, and I think if we could get some of that pride back for our community, I think the Hampton House would be that entity to bring it together again.
The county has provided $4.7 million in GOB funds for the Hampton House. With that, I think it has to happen. I will put forth every effort that I possibly can as Commissioner of District 3, which is where the Hampton House is located, to ensure that this come to fruition.
I always believe that place should be erected again.
I think that's an effort that's worthwhile.
We need to bring things back home, back into our community. We can go there rather than going out, going over to, to Miami Beach or going to Fort Lauderdale or whatever.
Older people like myself like memories, and if we can be a part of them, we will participate in it. And I think it should be built. If it keeps up the same reputation it had back in those days, then it'll be a wonderful place to go.
I do believe that we will eventually get to the point where we will restore the Hampton House, and we'll have a place in Miami where we could go and be proud of the effort that went into bringing that back as an economic engine in the community.
The preceding program was a presentation of WLRN,